What's up guys, Shawnthebro here, and in today's episode of the fighting game tutorial series, we are going to be going over match history. So we have this section in our player profile called match history. We can't actually access it yet, but we're going to be setting up the back end of it today. That way in the next episode of match history, we can set up the UI and actually go here and check out all the things from our previous matches. So the characters that were played, the result of the match, like win, loss, or tie, and other things like that. Again, today's only the back end, but that's what we're going over. So if we come into our game here, we can play a match. There we go, and the match is won. So at this point, our match history should update, and the way we're checking this now is through some print strings on the main menu. So if we go back to the main menu, and we go back to our profile, we should get a print string that says solo, and we did. So we're going to have a lot more information displayed by the end of this episode, but I'm just showing you that's how we're going to test it. Basically play a match, and we should be getting data on the previous match. Then again, next episode we'll update it and actually put it in this section of the UI. So that's what we're going to be covering today. If you want to get caught up in the series before checking this episode out, feel free to click on this link in the top right corner right here, which will link you to the entire playlist of the fighting game tutorial series. If you don't care about that, you only care about match history, I will link you to this episode right here, which is where we set up match flow. We are going to be expanding upon that logic today to grab all the stats and all the variables correctly when we're trying to display them in the match history. With those things out of the way, let's go ahead and get started. So this is a code and blueprint tutorial series, so we can go ahead and start in the code. In the code, we want to go to our base game instance.h. In here, we want to have some sort of structure of the data that we're going to need to record for our match history. So, like I mentioned earlier, we want to know the characters that were involved, the duration of the match, who won the match, and I'm also going to include the match type, like if it was solos, duos, trios. There's plenty more you may want to record. For now, that should do the trick. So I'm going to scroll down to my structures, and I'm going to go to the bottom and make a new one today. Struct F match history entry. Make sure it is a ustruct of blueprint type so we can see it in the blueprints. Make sure to call generated body like we have in all of our structures. And I'm making all the variables public in here. And these are the 4 stats I'm tracking for today's episode. So we have the team mode type, the characters on team 1 and 2, and determining the winner. All these variables have the same U property, so they have edit anywhere, blueprint read write with a category of match history, so we can find these easily in the blueprints, as well as access and modify these values if we want to. The first one is E team mode type, which I've just called team mode type. It's an enum value that determines if this is a solos, duos, or trios match. After that, we have our arrays of character classes. So the first one we have is E character class, T array of that, for team 1 character types. So this is just going to store the character class itself, such as Mannequin, Mutant, Vanguard. It's not going to store the actual character reference. You could do that if you wanted. It would complicate things a little bit when actually reading the data because those actors do get cleaned up, but you could pull proper data from them, like if you wanted to pull their outfit, the materials they were using, and things like that. You could do that. It's really not required here. That stuff will be visible in the replay anyway, so I think the character class is good enough for now. So I have Team 1 character types, and I have another T array of E character class for Team 2 character types. So we have all the members of both teams. Even if you're in solos, you still have one member on each team, so that will do exactly what we need it to do. And lastly, I just have a boolean, is Team 1 winner? There is one condition we're not accounting for here. If you have the ability to tie between the 2 users, the 2 players, so this may get updated, but for now, all we care about is if Team 1 or Team 2 won, and that is our structure. Now we need an array of these structures, right? Because we need an array of our match history entries so that we have our full match history. So I'm scrolling down my base game instance until I get to my variables, and I'm going to add a new T array of this type, T array F match history entry. And I've called it match history entries. As it says, it's just an array of all the match history entries. And I've made it U property of edit anywhere, blueprint read write with a category of news as a copy paste issue. This should be match history. So there we go. By doing this, we can store however many elements or entries we want in this, really. We should probably set a cap, but for now I'm just going to leave it infinite. We can keep adding to it forever. We're not saving it out yet, so it's only while the session is live. Once we have that, we can go into the fighter template game mode.cpp and scroll down to our match 1 function. This function is called when the match is over, so one character won, or one team won one way or the other. We implemented this before teams, so we have winning character. However, even with that, we're able to determine the winning team as the winning character is part of the winning team. No changes are needed for that at the current time, but just be aware of that. Soon after starting this function, we get the base game instance so that we can grab some information. And I've updated this behavior now to have everything that I'm highlighting here and a few other things down below. First things first, we need to create a new match history entry. And so to do this, you can simply type fMatchHistoryEntry, make it like any other variable, so call it matchHistoryEntry. Now we need to set all the proper variables on it, so the first one is the team mode type. So the matchHistoryEntry.teamModeType. And this one's very simple. We're just going to set it equal to the base game instance's team mode type. Whatever mode we're in is the mode we want to track for this match. For the next two things, we want to loop through all of our characters, grab the character class, and then add that to our Team 1 character types array and Team 2 character types array. So standard for loop for integer I equals 0, I is less than team1 characters.num, plus plus I. MatchHistoryEntry.team1charactertypes.add, and we're going to use team1 characters, I, the array we're looping through, at the index wrap, and call getCharacterClass on it, which is a function we have in the character class, which literally returns the eCharacter class enum, so mannequin, mutant, whatever. So for every character we have, we will add that type to our types array for the match history. We're going to do that for team 2 as well, so same for loop, but make sure that I is less than team2 characters.num. In the loop, make sure we're using matchHistoryEntry.team2 character types and adding the team 2 characters at index I with their character class. So simple enough, find all the characters from each team, add their type to the array for the match history. Now we can scroll down to where we check if winning character equals player 1. So essentially, if the character that won the game is equal to the player 1 variable that we have in the game mode, we know player 1 is the winner of this match. Now keep in mind, like I mentioned earlier, we have tag matches now, so this behavior can technically be incorrect. We need to update this to determine if the winning character is on Team 1 characters. So instead of doing this check, we can say if Team 1 characters.contains winning character. And now the comment, if player 1, the main player, has won the match, will say if Team 1, and we can say the main team, has won the match. Basically, if whatever character landed the killing blow or was out and active while the losing player was defeated was a part of Team 1 characters, then we know that Team 1 is the winner. These lines were already in here from before, but I've added a new one today, and basically we're setting matchHistoryEntry.team1winner to be true, because at this point we know Team 1 won the match. Else, we were setting the current win streak back to 0, but in this case we want to say matchHistoryEntry.isTeam1winner equals false, because Team 1 did not win the match. Once we have all of our data for match history entry set up, we want to add that to our match history entries array. So if we use our base game instance, grab the match history entries, call .add, and then pass in the match history entry that we created earlier in this function. Once we do that, we can load up the editor. Now the editor is back open, so we want to go to our Player Profile Widget. Even though we don't have the UI set up for this today, I want to act as if we did. That way we know we can grab the right information from the right spot. So here's Player Profile. Let's go to the graph. In the graph, we have Event Construct, and at the very end of Event Construct, I've added some new logic for today to make sure that we can test our match history entries array. So this behavior is very simple. We're going to get our game instance, we're going to cast it to the base game instance. This is the game instance type that we were just adding our match history entries to. We're going to grab the match history entries array by typing get match history entries. We want to loop through them all for each loop. We want to drag off the array element in the for each loop, so the individual match history entry, break it to grab all the variables within it. Then we can drag off of each of these variables and print out their values. That way we know we've done it correctly. So if you use a print string, for example, you can pass in your team mode type and it will automatically convert it from an enum to a string. I was playing a solo match at the start of this episode, so that's why you saw it printed solo after I won that match. Note that this logic is temporary. It will be handled by the match history widget and not the player profile, so it doesn't matter if you make this super clean. For now, let's just make sure it's working. So we can drag off of our Team 1 character types and do a for each loop. And we can call print string. And let's drag off the string and type append. And for A, we'll say team1, colon space. For B, I'm going to pass in the array element, which is going to convert it from an enum to a string again. And I'm going to make it neat, that way you guys can tell what's going on, but again, you don't really have to make it this clean. So basically print out the classes for team 1, and then on completed of that for loop, we're going to go to another for each loop. And in this one, we're going to use team 2 character types. Then we can do the same thing here, so I'll copy this. So we have loop body going into a print string. We're going to change the append to say team2 colon space, and the array element is going to go into the enum to string. So this is going to print out all the team2 character types from the match history entry. On completed of this loop, we can print out the result of is team 1 winner. So print string and pass in is team 1 winner, which will convert it automatically from a boolean to a string. And there you go. If we are to play our game again, when we go to profile, nothing's going to print because there's no elements added to the array yet. But if we were to play a match, now at this point we've won the match. Match 1 is called. So when we come to our versus end pop-up here, we can then navigate to main menu, scroll down to profile, and you'll see that the data is printing. Now, I only had it up for 2 seconds because I did not modify the print strings, but you can go to the output log. Just look up team1 colon, for example. You'll see it says mutant, which was the only character on team 1. Let's look at team 2. Mutant, that was the only character on team 2. Let's go to where those logs are. Should be pretty easy to find them. They're right here toward the bottom, so I see it says solo, which is accurate. We already determined team 1 and team 2 were accurate, and player 1 did win the match, so it should say true. So we know our data is getting stored in the match history entry correctly. All we have to do is actually display it to the user in the match history widget. That is something we'll do in the next episode, and then we'll save out the news entries and the match history entries in another episode, and all will be well. I hope you enjoyed this episode on match history, and I hope you're excited about what you can use it for in your game. If you are, please subscribe. It does more for myself and the channel than anything else you can do, and it is completely free. If you do want to support the channel using Patreon, YouTube membership, or Discord to get extra benefits within the community, please feel free to check them out. As many kind souls have, you guys are great, and I'm really, really happy that you guys are enjoying this series as much as I am. If you ran into any problems with this tutorial or any of my tutorials, feel free to join the Discord community. I'd be happy to help you out, and that support is completely free. Otherwise, guys, that's all I got, so thank you so much for watching. I'm Shawnthebro, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye, guys.